What happens when 3 accountants walk into a bar?
Understand what's on your balance sheet. What's on your balance sheet.
I was about to be like, what's a balance sheet?
So the balance sheet is going to tell you what your assets are, what your liabilities are, and what is your net worth.
They always say you have to take the money, get the money, apply for the money, etc. when you don't need it. So cash flow is a huge thing.
And so it's not just about having in accounting software a professional. You have to have the team.
I want to before we close out, there is, I feel like there's some nuggets that you probably have that you can share. I want to talk about tax strategy. Whether it is watching a TikTok or an Instagram, you have all of these tax professionals who talk about, the 179 deduction, the meals allowance, the entertainment allowance. What do you think? And from each of you, what do you think with this being small business focused, right? What's one of the deductions or the strategies that maybe we don't know about? Is there one thing that you're you make sure you go to your CPA and you ask them about this? Underutilized.
I think that a lot of small business owners don't know and understand and implement retirement strategies that are available for them, and also evaluating health insurance options that, and whether they're, a solopreneur or they have a small team of employees, it depends on where they're located, right? These rules can vary tremendously by state, but there are a lot of things that, and maybe at the initial phase of being, a 1 or 2 year, startup, it doesn't make sense for them to be in that position yet. But then they need to start looking at the big picture. And the big picture, like we've been talking about, there are so many pieces that you can really quickly forget about some of the things that are very important to do. And so I would say that would be number one for me. And then I guess kind of the side note, which maybe not one that they don't necessarily know about, but the one that is maybe ill-advised is the S Corp. Everybody, I get so many calls of, should I be an S Corp? Should I be an S Corp?
Oh, I'm glad you're answering. I was going to ask you this question. This is good.
We run a full analysis and we show someone exactly what the difference is going from being not an S Corp and just calling yourself an S Corp. Legal entity terms are way more complicated than that. So you need to know and understand what your entity actually is. Because here in Texas, you're typically not just an S Corp. You're an LLC that has elected to be taxed as an S Corp.
Right.
So it's a lot more complicated. And a lot of people just think, that's going to save me a bunch of money. And they need someone to show them that it might not really save you that much until you get to a certain threshold. And I'm not going to share what my kind of general threshold is, but they need to talk to someone and have them map those numbers, because it may, their situation is not going to compare apples to apples next to them. So I think that'd be my last one. I'm going to throw a third one in there, is don't talk taxes and strategies with your friends, because, we can all sit here, we can all say, I'm a business owner, or this or that. And, one teeny tiny fact can make it be apples and bananas.
Yes.
And it's difficult for the people sitting there to see that. So those are going to be 3 big ones for me.
I love this, because am I the only one that saw on Instagram? I bought a G-Wagon for my business. Did you know you could buy a G-Wagon and write it off completely because of the payload weight and the 179 deduction? And then all of a sudden everybody's like, I want to buy a G-Wagon for my business. Yeah. And you're like, hold on. Right. So you run to your CPA and you ask the question and they're like, yeah, don't do that. Don't.
You stole my thunder, because that's exactly what I was going to say. I am not a tax accountant, so I will clear that up right now. But the deductions, there's so many deductions that, people think that they can take. And so you just really want to have a reputable tax advisor who knows how to take those deductions. Are they the right type of deductions that you are allowed to take? Yeah. And go from there. Everything is not deductible in your house. I understand you work from home.
And I understand that you want it to be.
But everything is not. It's not. Exactly.
Okay, I got a bonus question then. So because this leads me into one more question. There are kind of coming up on the scene, which I actually am really excited to see this from from the financial industry. There are real like tax strategists out here now. There are people like very, very, very different type of, there's the bookkeeper, the CPA, the tax accountant, the tax strategist, there's so many different types of financial professionals. What's the hire that if you don't know anything about finances, like we talked about, like I'm a designer, I like to do design and wow, I have a business and it's making money. What's that first hire? Or just run through a couple of different hires that would say like the bookkeeper is important because right? The CPA is important because of this. Then you need to have the tax strategist because of this. Like talk just quickly. Let's just bounce it off just because there's so many different types of hires. And if I'm new to business or I'm finally making money and I'm like, I don't even know like what I need.
Right. I think a bookkeeper definitely for me would be one of the first people that you would want to invest in or
and the bookkeeper
hire.
Does what?
Basically, they're going to take your finances, your transactions, and make sure that they're being coded to a accounting software so that you know how much you're spending, where the money is going to, and all of that good stuff. So you need someone, and please make sure you get a separate bank account.
Oh, yes.
I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Like co-mingling
yes,
those
please
funds.
don't co-mingle your funds. So I think having someone to actually take those finances, those transactions, and put them in a systematic program that can tell you what you're spending, how you're spending, that's really important because then when you go to your tax advisor or, other CPAs, at least you have a good start of the funds that you've already spent for that business.
I love that. And then I think you said you didn't want to give a number, but could you please give a number of when should I start looking at, a tax strategist? Like when do I need to really start focusing on strategy and saving and retirement and, like different ways that I can offset funds and save some of that?
I would say probably once you have enough money that you're comfortably paying your living expenses, that like you are paying yourself enough where you're like, there is extra money. At that point, I would say probably at least, and a tax strategist may be on the more extreme side of it, right? Because, a CPA is going to be looking depending on. So my kind of secondary comment to what she's saying is you need to vet the people that you're using.
Yes.
There are so many of these. I don't know if you're scrolling on Facebook and Instagram, but it's like, learn how to be a bookkeeper in 6 weeks.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's really ugly out there. And having someone who you think is doing your books, but is not doing them will cost you a whole lot more money. So you need to actually vet that person's technical expertise. So I would say that, the bookkeeper and the CPA, it needs to be closely timed because if you're missing out on deductions, if you're missing out on conversations about deductions, you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
And again, you can get into problems that cost you a whole lot more money a lot faster than if you had those team players involved from the get-go to help you understand and navigate. And it's important that you really are using professionals that are qualified to give you the advice that they're giving. And so referrals are a great way to make sure that the people that are using those service providers are truly happy with the service they're receiving. This is a field where a lot of people are very vocal that they have a person, but they don't like them.
And if I
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Because, and I'm almost kind of backtrack myself because you hit on something, even when you decide what type of entity you want to be, I think that tax strategy comes into play there, right?
Yes.
So it's almost like you need to talk to someone before you make that
start.
decision
Yes.
of what type of entity you want to be, because then
Yes.
that plays into, tax planning, tax savings, and
Yes.
those.
And there's
types of
time
things as well.
limits on when you can file an S corp.
Exactly.
And you can't backdate that.
Nope.
And if you're stuck with Schedule C, I'm going to drop some language. If you're stuck with high Schedule C income and that's going down to your personal and then you got to pay taxes on that.
Exactly.
And you could have been an S corp to begin with, and you could have taken, you know what I mean? And you could have offset some of that. There's definitely, you got to leave it to the professionals. You got to leave it to the professionals. But then here's where I want to end it too, because I think this is really important. Ignorance is not bliss in this situation, because at the end of the day, you can hire all the professionals. And I love that you said you have to vet these people, because the bottom line is your bottom line. So you could hire the bookkeeper, right? And the bookkeeper could code however she wants to code, and you could code however you want to code. But at the end of the day, if this audit comes through, it's on you. It's not on her.
That's right.
So I love that you said that. We got to vet them. Thanks, ladies.
Thank
Shop Talk by
you.
Now. Financial.
This has been fun.